Okay, we're finally ready to do some testing, practice 11-7. Let's recap now our three main scenarios that we want to test, and then the random number function will cause us to permeate two of each of these three. So there'll be a total of 6 different cases that can actually happen. But from a testing perspective, the client makes a regular request saying, look, I just want information from the country US. So indeed, if that happens, then what they're going to get back 50% of the time will be either the primary service or the backup service, because they didn't say they didn't want the backup service. Now, if they send a request, but they say, look, the option is complete only, then if the primary service works, they'll get the primary service. But if the primary service fails, they're going to not get from the backup service. They're going to instead get that message that says, hey, that's all you get. So we'll follow that path. And then finally, in order for the client to force a failure of the backup service, by sending this in, half the time, they're actually going to get data from the primary service because it won't fail. But the other half of the time, when the primary service does fail, we're not going to bother to call the backup service. We're going to pretend it failed, and they're going to get back an error response. So we've got some country codes that we can use for testing. I'll keep these handy for me. I'm now going to walk through all the tasks to work through each of these scenarios. But first, let's get it activated. So we go to version 2 of this integration, click on Activate. Let's make sure we get our debug tracing level. Activation in progress. Let's refresh the pane, and now it's ready to go. So we click, as always, down to the run, which brings up our REST test. And then we're now going to work through the first set of use case, the regular requests. So for regular requests, we're going to not send in an option. We're just going to send in a country, and I'll keep using the US for simple testing. Click Run. And interestingly, the first time, we don't know it's going to be 50-50. We expect to either get a full country response, which we did not, or we expect to get the backup service response that says, hey, results are from the backup service. That means it went down that path. So let's do another one. Randomly, we should either get the other one, of course, 50, I got lucky. So, you know, it's like flipping a coin. It doesn't, you could get 3 tails in a row or 3 heads in a row. And so we got this one as expected. So that's tested. We're going to look at all these in the track instances a little bit later. Let's go ahead and finish all the testing. Let's move on down here to the complete only request. So in this case, we'll select for the option and type in the word complete. So option, complete. See if it works correctly. So we click on run, and immediately the random number generator said the primary service failed, and it took us down the path to not call the backup service, which is what we would expect. Let's do another run to see if we can't get up. It failed again. Let's click run one more time. It's like flipping a coin. Yeah, so we finally got the primary service to run or to execute, and this scenario has been tested. Again, the lab instructions say at least run them enough times to where you get one of each when you do these. The third one is forcing a failure of the backup service. So we change this option from complete to fail and see what happens. Again, it doesn't mean it'll always fail. It just means that the primary service fails. The backup service will also fail. So click Run. And obviously the primary service worked because we got that response. Let's click Run again. And this time it did fail, which means we threw that error up to the global fault handler, which now returns the fault that was captured and thrown up to it by the global fault handler. Now that we've done all of these, the lab exercise encourages us now to go through and take a look under the Observe tab to see the paths for these. Now, since there's so many use cases, I could take a lot of time for here, but I just want to quickly highlight what is going on. So let's click on Track Instances. And let's go back to the beginning when we had the success. And by the way, I want to point out, notice there have all succeeded, even the ones that failed, except for the very last one because the error hospital rethrew it back up to the top. So if that makes sense to you, right? So each of these, and I'll point that out to you here. So this first one here executed in here, and the random number generator clearly actually caused the throw new fault to occur. So you would think, well, why did it say succeed? Well, it succeeded because we caught the fault and we didn't allow it to be populated up to the error hospital. So instead it called the backup service and it sent a response back to the client. Make sense? Let's go back and look at the second one. In the second one, it took the happy path. The throw new fault condition didn't trip. Basically, the skip took place, and so it went down to actually send the mapper, and so nothing went any further than that. Let's look at the third one. Yeah, in this case, the primary service failed. Again, same as before, but because the primary service failed this time with a complete option, this was set option is equal to complete. Yes, it is, and that's where the map response occurred there. When we did the next one, I think that's the fourth one, keeping track here. We said we want complete, and oh yeah, it's just a repeat of that. So same thing happened on the next one. Let's go to the fifth one. Yeah, so for this fifth one, the primary service succeeded, and even though an option was provided, in fact, let's take a look at the information that was provided by the client. I'm sorry, right? Yeah, provided by the client. The get operation was provided. We had the relative URI, and essentially we had an option that said he wanted to fail, but it wouldn't fail because the primary service succeeded. In other words, only the secondary service is the one that he's asking to fail. Let's go to this one up here. And same thing again, right? No, the throw new fault didn't trigger because the random number generator said it shouldn't. Finally, the one that actually went all the way up to the global fault handler, take a look at how this looks. So we simulated the failure of the primary service, which throws the fault into the fault handler, which now checks, did you want complete? No. So that doesn't apply. Did you say you wanted the secondary service to fail? Oh, okay, we'll take this path. We'll not call the backup service, which now takes us to the throw new fault, which now allows me to go and take a look at my global fault handler to show that indeed it threw that custom fault, and I can take a look at the information in that fault to say that yes, we simulated fault from the primary service. So it allows me, even though what came back to the client is the custom fault that came back to the client was created and sent back from the call from the actual fault that occurred when we threw this new backup fault back here, this simulated fault from backup service. All right, so maybe it was confusing for you, but maybe it was helpful for you. What we wanted to illustrate in this lab was how to leverage various tools for error handling. The main one is to create a scope first. Once you create a scope, now if anything happens out of the ordinary in the main flow, your default fault handler will catch it, and there you can implement whatever logic you need to either handle the fault or rethrow the fault or whatever you need to do. Let's exit back out of here. The last couple of steps, starting in step 21, was to go through and, as always, deactivate our integration. So I'll click on deactivate, confirm it, and refresh the icon to see that it's in a configured state now. So folks, that takes us to the end of this lab exercise. A lot of different activities involving here. We did some testing. If you do get a chance to try these labs for yourself, hope you enjoy this one as well. This concludes Lab 11.